Good evening, everybody. My name is Tamar Russell Brown, and this evening we are online live filming, video recording this event. We're talking about our fall, late summer, early fall harvest art show, which is an online art show at Gallery Sitka. It's gallerysitka.com, and at the top there's a tab that says Harvest, and that is our harvest show, which was a fun juried show. And tonight we are interviewing Angelique Luro, who's one of the artists who's in our show. So we're going to start with a little bit of information about her life, and then we'll get into her work. So tonight, just a little bit of information. First of all, we are filming this, and we'll take Q&A at the end. You can put them in the chat or on Facebook or in Zoom. And if you need the information on how to get in, of course, you can message our Facebook page to get into the Zoom session. And we will have this as a live recording that can be used afterwards if you'd like to see it later. So welcome, Angelique. How are you?
Hey, Tamar. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on live. It's kind of fun. It's a new world. It's a new world. So Angelique, you are in Maine. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are?
Well, I am in Maine, in western Maine, in the mountains near Saddleback Mountain. I'm actually in my shed.
The beautiful shed.
Yeah, so we're up here just for the weekend to enjoy some foliage. It's really beautiful right now up here. I think they're at peak up here.
Already?
Yeah, they're about 2 weeks ahead of us, and we live in southern Maine, so yeah, it's really beautiful. Great ride up here. If you've never been, you really should come and at least see the height of the land, which is beautiful.
That's a great poster ad for the state of Maine. So I'm sure you're going to be happy. So Angelique, tell us a little bit about your education in your transition from education into being a fine artist. Could you tell us a little bit about your life that way?
Yeah, I went to school. Originally, I went to school for business, and I didn't really like business, but I had an associate's degree in business, and then my partner and I moved to Massachusetts because he got a job there. So I went back to school, and I went to Fitchburg State. At the time, it was Fitchburg State College. Now I think it's Fitchburg State University for graphic design. I wanted to satisfy that creative part of myself. I think that I just kept trying to deny most of my life. So I went back and got a degree in graphic design. And I didn't practice or work in graphic design very long because we had children, and the deadlines were very hard for me to juggle with daycare and the kids. So from the graphic design program, while my kids were young, I went to Radcliffe for landscape design. And I did about half of that graduate program, and we moved to Maine. And so I never finished it, but when we came up here, I practiced garden design and landscape design. So that's sort of my educational background.
So did you decide at a very young age that you wanted to be an artist, or that you knew you had something creative that you needed to explore?
Well, when I was a kid growing up, even when I went to college, I was always very creative. But I guess it's interesting because in my family, I have an older sister and I have a younger sister. And my older sister studied fine art in college, and my younger sister studied fashion design. So I sort of denied myself that because I always thought that was for them and I was something else. And I don't know why, but that's just how it went. I was the middle child, I guess. I don't know. But I always thought, you know, when I would hear someone talk about art or something, I would really like, I'd get excited and just like be envious of them, thinking about what it would be like to be an artist, but I never thought that I could until I got older. And I started taking a few classes, and I took some watercolor classes, and I tried to paint in realism, and I don't do rules. So it was really hard for me, and I enjoyed the process of painting when I would sit down and try to paint, you know, realism, but I didn't enjoy it the way that I enjoy painting the way I paint now. And how I ended up really turning to art is actually kind of a sad story. I had a very bad accident with one of our dogs, and I was home with him when he was recuperating. And I needed to heal from that because I hit him with the car in the driveway. And I just decided, I'm, you know, in my 50s, I'm going to paint. And so I started painting, and I love painting. It's very cathartic, and I can express myself in ways with paint that maybe sometimes I don't do so well talking, or I can say things that really come from my heart in a different way. It's very healing, and it's something I wish I had done and given myself permission to do my whole life. And I wish more people would give themselves permission to create and not worry about what it is people are going to judge you or what they're going to say. Because honestly, I had a few friends that started looking at my paintings and they didn't understand them, and they weren't too kind, actually. But it didn't stop me because I loved it so much. I just kept painting, you know, and I understood it, and so many other people understand it, that it was okay. And I guess you get to a certain age when you just say, I don't care. I'm going to continue to paint and paint my way. And that's something else too, that because I am not trained as a fine artist, I didn't go to art school. I do things my way. I don't get encumbered by anyone's rules. I paint the way that I want to paint. So and I'm going to stay that way. There were a few times when I thought I would take a residency fine art program, but I never did it. Something inside of me just said, you don't need to do that. So I'm here, and I'm happy, and I'm thrilled. So
I think that's awesome. I think that's the one nice thing about art, is that art is meant to break rules. You know, there are certain rules, maybe in, you know, perspective, certainly there's rules there, but I think that's the wonderful thing about art, and especially abstract art. There aren't any rules, and it's really whatever you want to make it. Could you talk to us a little bit about like the style of work that you do? Tell everyone like what your is, what that means.
I guess I would call my work abstract expressionism. You know, I definitely I definitely use a lot of line and texture in my work, but it's very abstract, and I don't know. It's hard for me, Tamara, to talk about my work sometimes because
We lost her. Hey, Helen. We lost Angelique.
I wonder if she knows.
I don't know. Here she comes back.
Okay.
Angelique, we lost you.
Oh.
We lost her again. This must be the cabin in the woods. This is what happens at the cabin in the woods.
Oh, we're out of range of the satellite thing.
Hi, Helen. Good to see you.
So let me tell you, I'm back in Lunenburg. I was down in Connecticut for about 5 days.
Oh, nice. Welcome back.
Yeah. And so now we're cleaning at the house.
That is exciting. Well, welcome back to the area. It's really pretty this year.
And we don't have to mention specifically, but you and I have been chit-chatting online about the state of affairs in Fitchburg.
I know, and we're both missing the input meeting. That's at 6 tonight.
Well, yeah, but it's the input is for the grant, right?
Yes.
I don't know what happened.
I said it's the cabin in the woods in Maine.
I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I was gone. So,
Where were we? We were talking about abstract painting and what that means. And that's what you do, right?
that's what I do.
And it just like,
So what I want you to also ask her while she's gone is what abstract expressionists does inform her work, or you know what I mean? Who was she inspired by? Because she might also want to explain what abstract expressionism is. A lot of people don't know.
that's true. Helen, while we wait, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, just what do you want? Yeah, ask me a question.
I was going to have you respond to what abstract expressionism
Oh,
means.
sure. Actually, abstract expressionism is the most well-known artist is Jackson Pollock. But there were many other abstract expressionists painting in New York, I would say from the 40s up until the 60s, perhaps. And there were actually quite a few women who were painting at that time. So Angelique, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, so my question was, who of the abstract expressionist artists inform your work, or which abstract expressionists do you like?
You know, Helen, I don't.
You don't like them?
No, I don't. I don't. How can I say this so it sounds right? I don't. I look at work, but I'm not inspired by anyone else's work. I let my own work speak for itself. I follow other artists and I look at other art, but I haven't studied abstract expressionism. Right. I just paint, and I don't, and I guess I do that because I don't want my work to become anything but mine.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. Well, what I was going to say to you, and another follow-up question is, so for several years you were a graphic designer, correct? And or not, I don't know. And how does your sense of she's gone. How does your sense of design influence the work, or where you got to at this point? She can't hear us, right?
Yeah, she's zipped off again, and she's coming back. Let her in again.
Okay.
Let's
Well, who's the? I'm thinking of.
question.
You want me to? What? Now you ask the question, Tamar.
Oh, no. No, Angelique. So we have another question from Helen. Go ahead, Helen.
The question. So I understand that you're not influenced by other painters, but my other question was, so I know you at one time you were a graphic designer, and how does your sense of design and color and form inform your work?
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. Like the work that we did, Helen, at school for graphic design, because I love line, and that came from my education at Fitchburg with you and all the other professors there. And the typography part of it doesn't play into it as much, but definitely color.
Right.
I can't remember her name, but I remember being in her class. Yes. And color is a big thing because it emotes so much, in line. I mean, all of those things together, and texture, and so the graphic design background. In fact, I was just working on a piece for a postmodern show in York, and that was challenging for me because it's more graphic design, which I haven't been that disciplined in my work, painting my abstract work, and the postmodern piece is much more disciplined in use of line and color and those things, but my sister actually was looking at it and said, you know, this really, you know, it beckons back to your graphic design work, Angie. So, you know, it definitely, you know, enters in there.
And so the other thing is when you're working on a color scheme for something, is it just intuitive? Or do you think, oh, well, I think I want to do this one with cool colors or with complementary colors?
Mm-hmm. You know, that's funny, Helen, because sometimes, and this happens most often, is that I will just say to myself, I feel like I'm going to work in some blues today.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it never ends that in blues. It ends somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like I might feel inspired by blue one day, but I might take me to completely somewhere else. But no, the postmodern piece, I actually did. I did plan out the colors for that because of how I took the pictures, and I was thinking of you, Helen, when I did it, because I used a heavy medium to impose the picture onto the piece.
Did you transfer it from something?
Yeah, I transferred it with paper. I had photocopies, a color photocopy, and they used a heavy gel medium.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, took the paper off and left the image of our donkey, actually. So, yeah, I was thinking of you when I was doing that, and the colors in that picture, because I had manipulated the picture some for that. You know, I let that inform the colors that I chose for the piece. But
well, and I'm just wondering, did I teach you all how to cyanotype in class? Do blueprinting or?
I don't remember doing that.
Right. But somehow we must have combined photography with design. There was a class called graphic design photography. And there was a course called illustration too.
Uh-huh.
Which is where you would have learned, you know, traditional drawing techniques.
Right. Yeah. I'd never had the patience, Helen. I always wanted to do my own thing.
Well, that's good. Well, who is it? Rothko. I was going to suggest you might look at the work of Rothko.
Mm-hmm.
He's very interesting. And I personally, Pollock, you know, I'm not so crazy about him. He's the one that does all the paint splatters.
Uh-huh.
But the other thing that I noticed about your work, I don't, I mean, I don't know, they're mainly on canvas, they're large, but I'm thinking you're sgraffitoing into it, scratching stuff away.
Yeah.
And adding layers on top. And I know when I work, you get into the zone, and then all of a sudden, you know it's it.
Yes. Yeah. You just have this, you just know, it just comes right from your heart, and you know, okay, it's perfect. I'm done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also sort of, sometimes I put it away and come back to it.
Yeah.
You do that too?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes though, Helen, I've ruined a lot of paintings by not putting it away and coming back, because I take photographs of them as I'm going.
Yeah.
And I'll look through the photographs and say, that version 6 hours ago was what I should have stopped at.
Right.
You know.
Well, we'll let Tamar
yeah.
ask a few questions.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, you guys have a history, so that's huge.
We do.
That's a big,
Yes.
so I appreciate it. Having you here, Helen. You can really.
Okay.
Yes,
Good.
thank you.
Yeah, and one other thing. So Angelique, what year did you graduate?
1993.
Right,
I believe.
because
Yeah.
you know, John was born in Matthew was born in 92, and John was in 87.
Yeah.
Were you there for a long time?
I was there because I transferred in a lot of credits.
Right.
So I wasn't there a really long time. I was there
Right.
mostly just for the graphic design part of it.
Right.
But my son was born in 1991, and I was pregnant with him when I was there for my final year.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was born, and I remember sitting in the office with you.
Really? With
Yeah.
the baby?
Yes, because I was working on my final project. It was greeting cards.
See? That office, which is, I retired, 4 years ago, but Randy Howe has my office now.
Yeah. Wow.
So Angela,
Now,
did you become a graphic designer? Did you work in the field?
I did. I actually interned with Peter Reynolds in, gosh, where was the office then? I don't
Well,
really remember.
Watertown, maybe? Was
Yeah,
it
in
Fayetteville
Watertown.
Vision?
Yeah, and after I interned with him, I got hired there. And I worked there for a while, but then I had a daycare conflict with my kids and I had to give it up. I had to leave. So I did a little freelance with one of the ad agencies in Worcester for a very, very, I think 1 week, and I hated it.
Right.
And I basically went home and just started classes at Radcliffe in landscape design after that. I just couldn't make the schedule in graphic design work from my family life.
So how did your education from graphic design and your love for obviously color and design, how did that affect your landscape work?
Oh, it's all so related because I like I was saying to Helen, I love line and I love texture and color, and it's all the same. It's just in different dimensions. When you're outside, it's just a huge canvas outside, and then there's the added challenge of these plants grow in how they're going to fill the space, and what does it feel like when I walk through the space. What am I trying to make people feel? And so it's really the same, it's just a different canvas. That's how I look at it. So everything that I've done, every progression in my creative career has led me to this, but it's all the same. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah, I do. I think landscape work is very, very creative. I know another painter that's what she does for her main career, so to speak, and then she's also a fine artist as well.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I love that, and I did that for a long time. But I'm older now, and I have horses at home now. It's very physical, and I can't do all of that physical work. Plus, I love painting. I love painting.
So how long have you been
painting? 2 years. Just about 2 years. And so I just, my house is full of paintings now. I just don't stop. But
you love it.
So
And we love it.
I do love it. I
was going to say is your work is much more mature than somebody who's just been doing it for 2 years. So that's why I think that the graphic design and the landscape design all fed into that. And now, I'm sure you do look at other people's work and, all that visual stuff.
Yes, I do.
So that you, because for gosh sake, you got best in show. That's an accomplishment. And those three,
I feel very honored by that.
Those 3 jurors knew what they were doing, actually.
They definitely did. They definitely did. We had very.
Yes. I'm very. I feel very, very blessed and very grateful. I mean, I think a lot of what people, whether you get a formal education or not, if you allow yourself to open up to letting go, just letting go and let that come out of you, there's so many things that you can do. And I'm proof positive of that, that if you just let go and do what comes naturally to you and do what you love, So.
Well, and I also think that's interesting. I had forgotten you had interned with Peter Reynolds, and then I hadn't realized you worked there for a while too. So that also, how did that influence your work or you? Because that's, that was the best site that there was.
That was an amazing place to intern. There was so much talent there. I don't know how I would say it influenced me other than Peter's success, just looking at his success. And, you know, he has a definite style and way of doing his art. And again, like I was saying to Tamar, that I never gave myself permission to say I wanted to be an artist. And I think I've always wanted to be an artist, and I just thought that was for other people, that I couldn't do that, you know. So
was it the money part of it that you felt?
The artist part? No,
Yeah.
I just didn't think that, because I didn't go to formal art school, you know, that I couldn't be in that world, that, you know, that I'd have to go back to art school. And I didn't really want to go back to art school. But I wanted to be creative, you know? So
You know, Angelique, now that I'm thinking about it, did you do a brochure design about green designers?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember. I don't recall that.
Well, one of the things I'll say is that Peter is all about concept.
Mm-hmm.
And it was you or perhaps someone else. He was just blown away by the fact that there was concept behind this brochure that was about green designers. You know, I'm going from new design.
You know what, Helen? I think that my resume, I don't know if it was that, but it was my resume that I sent to him was actually quite funny. It was a black and white picture of my daughter, I think, on it was like a card, and I said, and she was picking her nose, and I think it said, "Pick me." Honestly, I think that's the one I sent him. Yeah, and
Right.
He called me.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
I'm not sure if that's the same one, but I think that's the one that I sent Peter.
Yeah.
But
were you you were in Watertown? You weren't in the studio in Boston or the Children's Museum?
I was in Watertown. Yeah. Yeah. But I do believe that's what I sent Peter at the time.
Well, and I suppose for the other viewers, Tamar, do you know who Peter H. Reynolds is?
I do not. You have to
All right. Well, Peter H. Reynolds is probably my most successful, most well-known former student. He graduated in 1983, and he's an internationally known author, illustrator, and education specialist who is now, well, he's had various publishers, but now he's published by Scholastic, and his books have been on the New York Times bestseller list. And they're all children's book, and his illustration style, Angelique's right, is very unique. Angelique, how would you describe it?
Oh gosh. I don't know, Helen. It's so unique to Peter that it's, you know, when I look at it, because I know Peter, I didn't know him really well. I mean, we weren't pals or anything, but it's just so human. You know what I mean? It's so human. It's cartoon, but it's very, I don't know the word I want to say.
Well, I think, again,
so
like you
relatable.
and it comes from his heart.
Yes.
I mean, in a way, he's on a 200-year mission, you know, is how he puts it. And also the other thing about him, he's very diversified, because there's an animation studio on the top of the Children's Museum in Boston. He has his own bookstore called the Blue Bunny. He has a studio. He did the illustrations for the Judy Moody series. So they made a film out of it, and they consulted him. He's really just something.
Yeah, Peter, he's a good person as well. So
yes, yeah. So, Tamar, ask a question.
I'm letting you guys talk. I just love it. It's so awesome. Well, I'm supposed to ask Angelique at this point about harvest, the topic of harvest. That's our show.
Okay.
We want to get the work up on the screen, but I wanted to ask you about your feeling about harvest. Have you ever seen a harvest? What do you think of this time of year?
Well, harvest to me, because I'm a gardener, and my gardens are mostly ornamental gardens. So harvest for me is kind of a time of nurturing, of putting things to bed, and it really brings out that nurturing feeling in me, you know, putting them to sleep, you know, tucking everybody in. I love the fall. I love the shoulder seasons, spring and fall. There's just something really special about them. The colors are so vibrant, and harvest especially, it's time to just to let go. And what is the saying, you know, Mother Nature is about to show you how beautiful it is to let go. And I believe that is so true, because it's so lovely, and then she just lets it go, right? And harvest, I don't know, it's just a great time of the year. It's my birthday in October, and I love the fall. I really do. I love the colors. It's just warm, and it just makes you feel like getting in your nest.
Definitely does. Well,
Yeah.
I'm flip the screen so we can see your work. Give us a second. And then I'm going to have you tell us all about it. So this is the first piece, which this got Best in Show.
Yeah. Edge of Light.
Can you tell us a little bit about it, the story behind it?
Well, honestly, when I was painting that piece, I was struggling with it a little bit. I just couldn't make it work. And then I added those graphite marks, and it just all came together, and I knew exactly what it should be called, and I knew that it should be Edge of Light. It just, you know, like Helen said, it's just that moment, like, oh, this is what this is telling me. It is Edge of Light. And all the things that you think of when you talk about Edge of Light, when the day is beginning or the day is ending, just those moments where you're just on the edge of light. Like right now, for example, I mean, we're on the edge of light. But that painting to me is more than that, because Edge of Light also to me, because I also have a background in yoga. I did teach yoga for a short time, and so Edge of Light is also about your inner light and your inner enlightenment. And sometimes, you know, we just sit on the edge of that, and then it comes, and then everything looks differently. So that's about that piece.
So how many layers of
Oh God, I would
iterations?
say that this painting probably had a minimum of 6, maybe more layers before we got to the finish line.
So from your very beginning with this painting, how you mentioned before that you would take photographs as you're progressing painting.
Yep.
How different was it from when you started to the final piece here?
Oh, it's completely different. I was actually looking at those pictures the other day, and when I started the painting, it was more blocks of big color, and none of the smaller mixed color windows. There was none of that. So it just progressed into, you know, just letting peaks of that color come through. But I believe I started with, it was more blue, and it was like a steel blue undertone underneath. And typically I also start using a raw umber because it just it warms things up a bit. The raw umber, or sometimes a Van Dyke brown.
Ah.
That's great.
Yeah. And most of my paintings start that way. I mean, the beginning of them starts with mark making all over them, and just to activate the canvas and get going. And then most of the time I just start grabbing colors. I just grab colors and see where I go. This one was no different until I got to the point where I put those graphite lines in there, and I knew exactly what it was. So
that sounds like a graphic designer, doesn't it, Helen?
Yes, it does. Well, and the other thing I was thinking about is, I didn't realize they were graphite, but they sort of reminded me that it seems to me that the white was one of the later layers, and then I was remembering that they were scribed in. It's almost there's an X scribed in.
Uh-huh. Do a
The
lot
other
of,
thing is there's probably in theory of design, you learn this, but there are different quadrants. You know about the
Yeah.
9 quadrants,
yeah.
where you're supposed to put centers of interest and stuff. But
Mhm.
if you're anything like me, you're just intuiting the
Yes.
conversation.
Yes, Helen, absolutely. And it just, I always think of those quadrants, and I'm always thinking of, where's my focus, and, how is everything, weighted, and the proportions, and that's all going through my mind. But you're right, it's all intuitive. It just feels right to me.
I think that's a really interesting topic, the whole concept of graphic design, Helen, with the painting. Like I've heard people ask, how long did that painting take that artist to do? And the question is a bad question, because right now we're talking about, Angelique's been painting 2 years, but this is an extremely mature piece.
Yes.
So the concept is not that it took 8 hours, 6 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. It's that it's the whole life, her whole life as
Exactly.
a person, looking, the training that she had, looking, building. And then eventually, I think that's why you can have a strong painter that's young, but a lot of times I feel like mature painters they've had a life, because your visual history is what enables you to produce pieces like this.
Well, and I was once in a gallery show, and I think the fellow was some sort of, they were drawings or whatever. And so someone asked him that question, and he said 40 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think that is true. And the other thing is also that in terms of Angelique's case, she's had a lot of different careers, but some people, their work matures too, and so to get to this point, the other thing I wanted you to mention, Angelique, can you explain about that idea of mark making and how it relates to drawing?
For me, it's the mark making is I don't know, it just informs the painting for me. It's a huge part of what I do, and I love mark making, because I don't know how I would answer that, Helen, as far as drawing goes, because I don't draw.
Well,
But I
what I
love,
was going to say is, a lot of people think good drawings are reproductions of photographs. Let's just say that.
yes,
But we know, you and I, who are artists, know that it's all about the marks you make. And in
yes,
your case, you're making marks with color and paint and line and shape and everything. It's always about the mark making. And that's, in a way, why Peter Reynolds' illustrations are so whimsical, because you
yeah,
can see his hand in the work.
yes,
And
yeah,
I can see your hand in the work, and I'm sure you can see my hand in my work.
yes,
It's that unique thing.
yeah. And it is unique to everyone, has their own, like Peter says, make your mark. Everyone's mark is different.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, but
I really like the marks in this, and it does, from now that I understand more fully your graphic design training, it kind of makes sense, actually. Very interesting.
I really, I love making marks. I think I could just make marks and I'd be happy.
Well, the other thing they say, of course, is that you really have to get back to your, your childish passion and joy, like we all were when we were kids. And
Exactly.
that mental quality that you have in your work is, like in a way, much more sophisticated, but like a child making marks. And
yeah, Helen, I think that's true. And I also think that when I am making art, I take the approach that I'm exploring, and I'm exploring. I'm exploring the paint colors, and you know, to me it's like an excavation of just all of those things. Like I don't get married to any of it, and I explore it, see where it goes, and how the marks, you know, work with the concept of the painting. And it's just a very free wheeling thing for me. It's
well,
very,
what you're describing is it's about process,
yeah,
you know, and the process is just as important as the finished piece.
yes.
And well, I was going to say something here, but I forgot. So,
Well, I'm going to move us on to the next piece.
yes.
Angelique,
Ah,
this one.
September. So that piece, I love that piece because I built that. That is on a cradle panel that I built. So I crafted that from the beginning. I built the cradle, I built the panel, and it was just a very organic experience to put that all together. It's a 48 by 48, so it's fairly large. And I used a lot of texture on that. It's hard to see in that photograph, but there's a lot of texture that I put on that piece. And I built it up with I think tile mastic is one of the things that I've used, and I think I used some on there. So it was just layering of that on there, and then just building layers of the paint. And I love the yellows in that painting. I just like how they married together. There's probably 4 or 5, maybe more yellows that I used in that painting. And I called it September because of the light, the way the light changes in September, the way that the sun gets a little bit lower on the horizon, and it softens everything. And there's just a real glow of around things in September. It just reminds me a lot when I was a child, when September would come and that sun would start to get low on the horizon. You knew it was time to go back to school, you know. So it's September, it's a beautiful month, and it's the color of September to me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I would ask the same question. Did you have the same, did you have a plan for this when you started, or did you start with your mark making and then just gradually build into these colors?
Yeah, I did not have a plan. I definitely started, with this one, I started with texture. And actually that was challenging because sometimes you put texture where maybe when you get going, you maybe don't want it, or it's not in the right place. So I did, that was challenging, putting the texture down and then working around it and making the piece work with the texture that I'd already laid down. But I had no plan. But I think when I did a first layer of yellow on that, I just kept going with it because it just spoke to me. And, and then I added the turquoise just to, have some contrast in that piece. But yeah, no, I didn't have any plan. It just happened.
Which I think, yeah, it's abstract work. That's kind of how it goes, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of art, I find, goes that way.
Yeah.
Really wonderful.
Thank you.
Stop sharing now and can you show us the ones that are in your space there behind you?
Yeah, these are little paintings that I did on another trip that we had taken up here earlier in the summer. And we have a boat up here, and we were over on another lake, and we were actually at a campground, and we rented a spot across the lake so we could go there and be private all day and just hang out. And I painted while I was over there, and I painted these. I don't know. Do you want me to pull them off?
Well, I'm thinking, can we see them a little closer, but still in the good light? Yeah, see, I think I think, actually, could you go? I don't know how. No, we want it in the good light. It's all about the light.
So I'll pull this over here.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So I'm in the shadow now.
Yeah, that's right. We know where you are.
So, a little bit about these pieces is that I sat there and I was painting. You know, we were there all afternoon.
Oh, stop.
And
That was perfect light. Stop right there. You had perfect light.
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Down a
And
little.
bring it down a little bit. There. Close enough.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I was sitting there and I was painting, and I was painting the forest litter.
It's great.
That's what I was working on, the forest litter, because there's so much there. You know, there's so much on the forest floor that is just very interesting to me. And that's what I was painting.
And it looks like you have a series of them.
Yeah, I did 6 of them. You know, they were little 5x7s, and then I mounted them. I actually had a lot of fun. I can't stay there. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I want to talk about that first one. Go back to the first one. Or this, whichever one.
This one?
No,
That
the
one?
other one. The one that you had first. Well, we can look at. Fine. We'll
That's
look at
the
this
one, Helen.
No, there's another one. It's got a little piece on the side, like an orange piece on the right side of it. You could hold, if it's
Oh,
difficult,
there?
Well, we could go there.
that's a different
That
one.
one?
No,
Wait,
go
let me
the one
stand
to
up.
the far side of the middle one.
All right, wait a minute.
That one, bottom right.
With the big red thing. Go down.
Bottom right.
Right. That one.
That one.
One.
Okay, so what I was going to say about that, and I wondered how you feel about this, whenever people look at abstract work, they try and get an anchor or something. And in this little one, you know, the center of the composition where you're drawn is the red part with it looks like a little black house in there. With 2 lights, you know. So one of the things about abstract work is people who they sort of have to find a way to enter into the work. And for me, it's in that little red thing, and then you go around. So when you were painting the litter, were you literally pasting it on and painting?
Oh no,
litter? Right?
no! I just get inspired by it. Like all the things that I'm seeing, the colors, and you know, the pine needles and the dried leaves and the insects and the roots. There were a lot of roots over where we were. And honestly, the sound of the lake, all of it comes together. And so that's where these came from. I was on Casuptic Lake, and I just started painting, and that's what happened.
So the other thing is that in terms of the series, are they laid out exactly as you painted them? For example, was this the last one you did?
Helen,
What?
there's no way I know that.
Well, here's the thing. I think what's interesting about your work is it's in series, whether or not it's on one canvas and you're layering on top of each other, or in this case, you're working, you do one, okay, then you go to the next one, and the one before informs the next one.
I do them all at once.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
I do them all at once. I never do one thing in isolation. It's all together.
So you're picking, so this red might be in some of the other ones?
Yep,
Wow.
yep. I do them in all at the same time.
And that's why they all work together as a series.
Yeah. Yep. I'm whenever I do a series, which is more often than not now,
Right.
except when I work on big canvases, I will do at least 3,
That's
sometimes more. And I do them all at once.
And what are these made with, Angelique? That's one thing we didn't discuss.
They're on paper, so it's a 5x7 acid-free paper. And then I mounted them on 10x10. They're 3/4 inch canvases. And then I used, actually, I made a strip frame for them because I thought they needed it.
That's what that little wooden thing is around it?
Yep, it's
Yep.
it's actually called screen door framing or something, and it was perfect because it's 3/4 of an inch, so it fit around the canvas really nicely.
The medium
And then
on the work.
what was that?
What's the medium you're using? Like, or is it?
It's all acrylic and mixed media. You know, there's charcoal in there. There's graphite. But yeah, primarily acrylic. And then I actually washed these with like a light. I think I used a brown again. It might have been Van Dyke brown in the gel medium, and just washed them. So it just warmed them up just ever so slightly a little more.
And does that also protect them?
No, I actually spray them with a final coat of varnish. These are done with a matte varnish. Sometimes I don't know, I prefer a matte varnish. It's more organic. It's more close. It's close to what we're seeing with our eyes versus a high gloss. I think some pieces look great with high gloss, but for me, a lot of times I will use a matte finish.
Well, I think in its setting on the barn board wall, it really works well.
Yeah, doesn't it look nice in here?
It's perfect. It's really nice.
So, yeah.
Wow, guys, we have 5 minutes left.
So you could show us a different one. Oh, okay.
No. Show you can. Absolutely. I'm just gonna see if we have questions. Is she there?
Hi.
Angelique?
I didn't see anything.
Okay, so then show us another one. We'll get Angelique to show us another
All
one.
right. What one do you want to see? Like, I'm going up high now.
Yeah, I'm interested in that one.
This one?
Yeah. So Tamar, what do you see in that one?
Can you talk, Angelique? Because otherwise we can't actually see your screen. Let me see.
Oh, okay.
All
Can
right.
you see it now?
Yes, I
Yeah, that one is you know, a lot of ochre in that one, yellow ochre.
So Helen, what I see a deer or some type of a gazelle maybe coming in from the left there with horns on its head, and there's a red sun in the background, and there's a campfire on the bottom there with some sticks sticking up.
Well, what I was going to say is I was going to reference the painting at Lascaux. It's, as you mentioned that, it's like a cave painting.
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it kind of does resemble a cave painting.
It really,
Yeah, I see that.
but that's
It's always interesting.
go ahead.
It's always interesting. It's interesting to me always when people look at your work and they see things in it that I never see. You know, I'm not looking at it usually in that way. I'm looking at it for the composition, for, you know, how's it working, and, you know, how do I feel about it? I'm not looking at it like, what do I see in it?
Well, I think that's the wonderful thing about abstract work, is that the viewer can determine what they want to see.
Yeah.
When the artist makes a title, maybe the title kind of leads you to understand what they want you to understand. But
Yes.
really, if it's just, you know, if you ignore titles, you can make a piece be whatever you want when it's abstract. That's what's wonderful about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tamar, I think that's what I love about it too, is that it could mean it could mean anything to so many different people. And it's just kind of very cool when it speaks to someone. you know, and they see something in it that stirs something in them.
Well, and one of the things I always say, because I was at Rollstone Studios for about 7 years, and we were selling a lot of different people's work. But what I would always say to someone is, you know, if this work speaks to you, you better get it now, because you'll regret not getting it, and you'll be thinking that'll be on your mind. And Tamar, you must have that experience with people who come into the gallery and think about it, and then perhaps they come back.
Well, I think that's always the case with any kind of sales, really. You know, you definitely want to encourage people, if they like something, to take it, because they will. I will give you a couple stories, though. I have one particular person who's bought from us. She saw a painting in our space. She kept coming back to look at it for over the course of a year. It was a really large one. And she would ask me, is my painting still there?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so eventually she came and bought it. So she couldn't get it off her mind. She knew it would be perfect for her home and perfect for her. She loved it. And eventually she bought it. So I think that's—
Was it the cost that was prohibiting her from getting it, or the size?
the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
Yeah.
art is it's something that you don't purchase every day, but it definitely makes your home— I mean, when you hear these conversations, I think, and you see what goes into making art, the history behind people, it's a real investment, and it's an investment in making your space a home. I think that's—
Truly.
yeah. Those are wonderful, Angelique. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you
Here
so much.
she is.
I haven't had a haircut in months. I've been cutting my own hair.
It looks awesome.
I have one last question, and that is, you do have horses, and how many horses do you have?
I
And
have.
are they rescue horses?
Yeah, well, one of them is, and one of them isn't. My quarter horse is not a rescue, although she could have been, but she's not. And then I have a Mustang, Helen.
From
I
a
have—
BLM or?
No, I have a Prior Mountain Mustang. She was bred in captivity, so she wasn't bred in the Prior Mountains. She was bred by someone actually in Massachusetts who was breeding them, thinking he was going to get rich, and they all ended up at a rescue, and that's where I got her.
And so what's special about the Mustang?
Oh, her spirit is special. You know, I had a friend who's since passed, and she came to me because I have 4 equines. I have one quarter horse, 1 Mustang, a mule, and a mini donkey. And she said to me, Angie, do you realize that every one of your equines, every one of them, it has an aspect of your personality? And my Mustang is definitely my stubborn side. You know, she's very bright, but she knows what she wants. She's bold, and she doesn't fear things, and you know, so that's sometimes part of me that, you know, when I just feel like I can do this, but I don't ride her because I'm not that fearless. But yeah, she's beautiful. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to wrap up, guys, because we're at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we can keep going. It's so I want to—
Mar, thank you, and thank you, Helen. This was really
Yes.
fun.
It's really fun. It's really good to get to know you too, Angelique, to get to know you as a person. And it was wonderful having you. It's really a joy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You as well.
Here's Doreen.
And it's nice to see you, Helen.
I know. You haven't changed a bit.
Neither have you. We're aging gracefully.
Yes.
Well, everybody, my name is Tamar. Tonight we had with us Angelique Luro. She's in Maine. She's She's a painter who's part of our Harvest show, which is on our website. It's gallerysitka.com. And the Harvest tab right at the top has the show. Tonight we interviewed Angelique and talked about her work and her life, and she got Best in Show. Her piece was one of the winners. So thank you all for joining us. We'll be back here next Friday night, and we look forward to seeing you again. Have a great evening and a good weekend.